Happy Weight Top Wednesday! Tis I, Miss Corey, yo fearless leader. Today is Wednesday, April 1st, 2020. So I'm coming at you with some top lesson action because today would be our normal day that we would be having top. So obviously in this capacity, it's a little less interactive, but I still encourage you to watch the videos, get lesson material in the comments. You can always answer any of the questions that I pose or play along with games and whatnot that will be in the lessons. So yay for getting to still connect with you all, even though we're not together face to face. So the lowdown for today's lesson, again, April 1st, 2020. Happy April Fool's Day, even though every day feels like April Fool's right now. School has officially been canceled up until at least May 1st. Obviously, we know that could go on longer. So, because of that, all top events are canceled as of now. Hopefully, once things get under control with COVID-19 and we start to know more about timelines of when we'll be able to get back into the classrooms and things like that, we'll be able to give you more information about top events to come. But as of now, everything top related is canceled, with the exception of these cool interactive online videos and things that we'll be doing. I made a TikTok page. Oy vey. I have a Facebook page. So there's a lot of different ways. I'm doing this YouTube channel, ways to still stay connected. You can also text me or call me, message me, all those types of things. So I am still available to you even though we can't meet face to face. Service learning opportunities from home. I've been throwing some of those out there for everyone. A big one right now that we're looking for are cards and pictures that you can make from home. So this card or a picture would maybe have like an uplifting message, something positive, things to brighten up the day of people who are either in isolation or on the front line, making sure that we all are staying safe. In particular, right now, we are looking for some to donate to our domestic violence shelter at the YWCA. So you can make these either digitally or if you want to just take paper and markers and make something that way. Either of those options are fine. But what I need you to do is to take a picture of whatever you make, each individual piece, and then text it to me, email it to me, message it to me, whatever is easiest. What we're going to do is then send it to our domestic violence shelter, and they are going to print off those pictures and give them to the residents there who are under isolation and can't really leave the building right now. We're also going to use those pictures to donate to nursing homes, hospice facilities, hospitals, different places like that. So just any uplifting, positive message, thanking the people on the front line, or just encouraging people to stay strong, that we can do this. That is all super cool and appreciated. So you can make as many of those as you would like. We will take all that we can get. That way we can distribute those amongst all of the people who need them. If you make a hard copy picture, or even if you have something digitally, please make sure you save those things, because once we get back together to have top in person, you will be able to give those to me and we'll be able to give those to people once we can start interacting face to face. So that's a cool service learning opportunity that you can do. And I am keeping track of who is doing what community service learning. So that will count in your favor. You'll get some service credit for that. We also recently on our Facebook page discussed a service possibility with Nationwide Children's Hospital in Columbus. They have a link that you can go on and just you put your name, I think maybe your email, and a positive message for the people who work at Nationwide Children's Hospital to thank them for all of their hard work. So I will post the link to that service opportunity in the comments once this video is done. That way you can go on and participate in that service project if you would like. So exciting stuff. Just because we're at home doesn't mean that we can't still provide community service for our community. So if you have really great suggestions of things that we can do from home, hit me up, let me know. I will let everybody else know. That way we can keep the service going. So yay for community service learning. Today's lesson, we are going to talk about sexual health, kind of some true and false situations around that. So get excited for that. So just a few things to like preface our meeting, and I'm going to read things from the book because that's where we are with life. Um, so just because we're talking about sexual health doesn't mean that there is an assumption that everyone is sexually active. Whether or not someone is, it's still important to know this information because eventually they may need to know it, or they may know someone that needs to know it. And then you have accurate information that you can share with others if they need to hear it. Obviously, these things can be sort of awkward and uncomfortable. I get that, but knowledge is power. The more you know, the more you're educated, the easier it is to feel less embarrassed or awkward about these types of things. Obviously, we're not together, so not really any put downs, but obviously keep it positive, no negative comments or, things like that. All of this is just a learning process, and getting information to people is important. So when I have this conversation with you today and I go through this material, when I say male or female, I will be referring to biological sex, or people born with a penis, or people born with a vulva. Biological sex is different than gender. Gender is how people identify and express themselves. So when we're talking about male or female, we're talking about biological sex, how they were born. We're not here to judge. However someone identifies is how they identify. And that's okay because we're all different and we all identify differently. That makes us human, and that's okay. So we're going to play a little game. I have some true and false questions that I am going to read. We're not together right now, so we can't really play this as like a game where we are competing against each other. But what I'll do is I'm going to read the statement. I'll give you a few seconds to decide whether or not you think it is true or false. I'll give you the answer, and then I'll give you a few facts about that statement. So, let go. Abstinence is the only method of contraception or preventing pregnancy that is 100% effective. Is that true or false? The answer is true. Abstinence, so abstinence is not engaging in any sort of sexual activity whatsoever, is the only 100% effective way to avoid unintended pregnancy. However, if someone is sexually active, correctly used contraception can be very effective in preventing pregnancy. So contraception, when we use that word, we're talking about things like birth control, condoms, things that help prevent against pregnancy. Again, they're very helpful, but they are not 100%. The only thing that is 100% is abstinence. The most effective way to avoid getting an STI is to use condoms. This is question 2. Is that true? Is that false? That's my dog crying in the background if you can hear her. So, the most effective way to avoid getting an STI is to use condoms is false. Abstaining from sexual contact of any kind is the most effective way to avoid getting an STI. If someone is sexually active, they can reduce their risk of getting an STI by correctly using latex or polyurethane condoms or dental dams every time they engage in sexual activity, and limiting sexual activity to only one person who has no other partners and has been tested and has no infection. So those were a lot of words. Condoms are effective at helping prevent pregnancy and STIs, but they are not 100%. But if you choose to be sexually active, make sure you are using a condom, birth control, a dental dam, which is a small piece of latex or polyurethane that can be placed on other parts of the body that condoms don't cover. All of those things will greatly reduce your risk of an STI or pregnancy, but again, it's not 100%. Question 3. If someone who is biologically female isn't menstruating by age 13, there is probably something wrong. True or false? The answer is false. Some females may start menstruating as early as age 9, but others may not get their first period until they are 15 years old. Or it could be longer. If someone is nervous or anxious about not having started their period, they can see a healthcare practitioner to make sure everything is okay. But that is normal, doesn't mean anything is wrong with you. Next question. For people with a penis, Nocturnal emissions or wet dreams are a normal part of puberty. Fact or fiction, true or false, fact or myth, however you want to spin that. What you think it is? So, that is a fact. A wet dream or nocturnal emission is when the penis becomes erect or hard while a person is sleeping and ejaculation occurs. Ejaculation is when semen, which includes sperm and other fluids, leaves the penis. Wet dreams occur less often as someone gets older and they may eventually stop, but totally normal part of puberty if it happens. Our next question. STIs always have symptoms. Is that true or false? STIs always have symptoms. What you think? It's false. The main symptom of an STI is no symptoms at all, right? If you've had DTL or RTR, you should know this. Many STIs have no symptoms and can be detected only by a medical test. It is possible to have an STI and still feel completely healthy. Even if an STI has no symptoms, it can harm and infect person's health and be passed on to sexual partners. And many STIs are curable. Not all of them are curable, but they are all treatable, meaning those that you can't cure, that you can't get rid of, there are still treatments that can help with the symptoms and help prevent you from passing them along to someone else. Our next question, I should not smack my laptop with this curriculum book. Only people who are biologically female can get the HPV vaccine. So HPV is the human papillomavirus. You maybe have heard of this vaccine as called Gardasil. And that is false. All adolescents can get the HPV vaccine. The vaccine helps protect against HPV, which is an STI that can lead to genital warts and cancer. So regardless of your biological sex, gender identity, all of those things, anyone is able to get that HPV vaccine in their youth. Now, once you get into your 20s, there starts to become restrictions as far as like insurances and things like that, but if you're a young one, you can get the HPV vaccine. Our next question. It is unhealthy to bathe or swim while menstruating or having a period. True or false? So that is false. I'm recording a video, FYI. That's me yelling at my husband that I'm recording a video, so he doesn't do anything weird. It is unhealthy to bathe or swim while menstruating or having a period. So false. There is no physical reason why any activity should be restricted during a menstrual period. However, some people may avoid certain activities because of religious beliefs or cultural customs. Bathing or showering is especially important during one's period for good hygiene. So you can totally swim, take a bath, do all of those things if you are menstruating. Next question. Cancer of the testicle is more common among young people than among those over 35. Is that true or false? The answer is true. Cancer of the testicle is a rare form of cancer, but it usually occurs in people aged 15 to 35. The first sign is a hard lump on the testicle that can easily be detected through testicular self-examinations. So, especially for high school age people and older, it's important that you're doing testicular self-examinations and just making sure you're checking for any of those lumps that could happen, because this form of cancer is rare, but it could impact people your age. Our next question. There is one absolutely safe time each month when it is impossible for pregnancy to occur. Is that true or false? That's false. There is no completely safe time for having sexual intercourse and avoiding pregnancy. Some people think having sex during their period protects them from pregnancy. This is not true. While it is less likely that pregnancy will occur at this time, it is still possible. Sperm can live in a female's body, able to fertilize an egg for up to 3 to 5 days. If ovulation occurs during this time, pregnancy can occur, so it's still possible. Ovulation can happen. Oh, yeah, we're okay. Ovulation can happen before someone's period has ended or within a few days after it is over. It is also important to know that vaginal bleeding does not always mean that someone is having their period. Spotting may occur between periods, and there is sometimes a small amount of bleeding at the time of ovulation, when a person is most fertile. All right, next question. Menstrual cramps are caused by contractions of the uterus. Is that true or false? The answer is true. Cramps are caused by a hormone that makes the uterus contract. Some people have very strong contractions during their periods and therefore painful cramps. I teach the 6th graders about this by showing them that your uterus is the size of a fist and it kind of has to do this during your period, and that is why some people get menstrual cramps. Next question. If a person has had a STI once, they can't get it again. So if a person has had a STI once, they can't get it again. That is false. So there are some STIs that you can take a medication and it will treat it and it will go away. Things like syphilis, gonorrhea, chlamydia, pubic lice. Just because it'll go away doesn't mean that you can't get it again. So it is very important that if you choose to be sexually active, that you are getting tested. That way you know what's going on. If you are sexually active, it's also important that if you do find out you have an STI, to communicate that with any partners that you may have. That way they can get tested and treated if they also were to have something. If someone with a penis has never had a nocturnal emission or wet dream, they can't get someone pregnant. True or false? That is false. Pregnancy occurs when an egg is fertilized by a sperm and implants in the lining of the uterus. It doesn't matter whether or not a wet dream or nocturnal emission has happened previously, and pregnancy can happen the first time ejaculation occurs. So just because somebody hasn't had a nocturnal emission doesn't mean they can't still cause a pregnancy. How are you doing? You doing well? You missing some? That's all right. No judgment. This is just a good little refresher for some and new information for others. If someone has had sex with only one partner, they don't need to get tested for STIs. Is that true or false? The answer is false. Anyone who is sexually active is at risk for STIs, including people who have had sex with only one partner. If someone is sexually active, they should get tested regularly for STIs. So some people get tested every 6 months, even if they have the same partner. Some people get tested every time they have a new partner. If you choose to be sexually active, make sure that you're getting tested so that way you know your sexual health. Our next question. The sperm cell determines the biological sex of a baby. True or false? That's true. Eggs carry an X chromosome, and sperm provide an X or a Y chromosome, which determines whether a baby will be born biologically female or male. Frequent touching will cause the penis to grow permanently larger. Is that true or false? That is false. No amount of touching will permanently affect the size of a penis or breasts. The size of our body parts are the size of our body parts, and that's okay because everybody is different and unique, and that's what makes us special. In order to produce sperm, the temperature of the testicles must be slightly lower than the body temperature. Is that true or false? That is true. Sperm cells are produced only when the testicles are about 2 degrees cooler than normal body temperature, which is 98.6 degrees. The scrotum acts like a temperature gauge, allowing the testicles to hang just below the body where it is cooler than 98.6 degrees most of the time. In cold weather or cold water, the scrotum draws the testicles up close to the body, keeping them from cooling off too much. So totally normal if those things are happening to your body. So if someone that has a vagina has never engaged in intercourse, they can't use tampons. Is that true or false? That's false. Even if a person has never had intercourse, the vagina is large enough for a tampon. Some people may choose to use tampons, and others may choose not to. Menstrual products are a person's personal choice, so whatever a person chooses to use that they're most comfortable with is what works for them, and that's okay. Next question. Usually, both breasts are the same shape and size. Is that true or false? That's false. Most breasts are slightly different in size and shape. So if you've ever noticed that, that is normal. Everyone's body is different. Next question. One testicle usually hangs slightly lower than the other one. Is that true or false? That's true. Having one testicle hang lower than the other is completely normal. Nothing to worry about there. Our next question. Once someone has a full erection, they must ejaculate either through intercourse or masturbation. Is that true or false? That's false. There is no harm that occurs if ejaculation does not happen after an erection. There might be some discomfort and heaviness in the testicles if that person is sexually excited for a long period of time without ejaculating, but that feeling will go away. It is not required that a person needs to ejaculate. Our next question. Alcohol and marijuana make it easier to get sexually aroused. True or false? That's false. These substances can actually have the opposite effect. Alcohol and marijuana are depressants. They decrease blood flow, making it more difficult for an erection or an orgasm to happen. They can also reduce a person's inhibitions and make them feel like it's okay to do things they normally wouldn't do, such as have sex or have sex without protection, which could put them at risk for pregnancy or an STI. Also, something to keep in mind, if a person is under the influence of alcohol, marijuana, any other drugs, they cannot legally consent. So remember, we talk about consent, making sure that the person freely is giving that consent, that they're comfortable with everything that's going on. In the state of Ohio, the law says that if you're under the influence of a substance, even if you say that you're okay with something, you cannot legally make that decision because alcohol and drugs are mind-altering substances. So if you are under the influence of alcohol, drugs, anything like that, by law, you cannot legally consent to sexual activity. That's a big thing to remember. A person can become pregnant before they have their first period. Is that true or false? That's true. Before the first period, ovaries release the first ovum or egg during ovulation. If semen enters the person's vagina around that time of first ovulation, pregnancy could occur before their first period. So it's possible that that ovum could be released, sperm could be present in the body, and the two could meet together before the first official period happens. So that's something that a lot of times with my sixth graders we talk about because they don't realize that that can be a thing. The next question is, it's okay to use alcohol or drugs after the first 3 to 4 months of pregnancy. True or false? That is false. Many newborns are damaged by alcohol, heroin, amphetamines, and other drugs because their mother used them during pregnancy. For example, when mothers drink alcohol during pregnancy, babies might be born with fetal alcohol syndrome. Smoking during pregnancy increases the risk of miscarriages, stillbirth, low birth weight, and sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS, if you've heard of that. If someone pulls out before ejaculating, their partner can still become pregnant. Is that true or false? That is true, because pull-out game, not a strong choice. Pre-ejaculatory fluid is released before ejaculation. This pre-ejaculatory fluid may contain sperm, which can still cause a pregnancy. People usually can't tell exactly when pre-ejaculatory fluid is released, so you can't always tell that that's happening, and there could be sperm present in that fluid that could cause a pregnancy. Here's another one for you. Pregnancy can occur even if ejaculation doesn't happen inside the vagina. Is that true or false? That's true. So, my computer is deciding it wants to, do some sort of weird update, and we're not really here for that. So, if ejaculation happens near the vagina or someone touches the vulva with semen on their fingers, it is possible for sperm to get inside the vagina. Once sperm is inside of the vagina, it can begin the process of fertilization. This means it is possible for a pregnancy to occur without ever actually having intercourse. Oof. Good things to know, right? Our next question. If a person has a vasectomy, they will no longer ejaculate during sexual activity. Is that true or false? That's false. Semen, the fluid ejaculated out of the penis, includes sperm cells and fluid from several glands in the reproductive system. During a vasectomy, the vas deferens is severed, so sperm can no longer travel from the testicles out through the penis. However, the other fluids, which make up most of the semen, are still ejaculated. Someone who has had a vasectomy will not notice a difference in the amount of ejaculate that they produce. And then our last question of this little fun-filled health game. Heavy discharge from the vagina means a person has a STI. Is that true or false? That is false. Vaginal discharge is part of the vagina's natural way of cleaning itself. The amount of discharge varies from person to person and varies during different times in the menstrual cycle. It is usually heaviest around ovulation. Discharge that starts to itch or burn or has a different color or odor than usual may be a sign of an infection or an STI, and seeing a healthcare practitioner is recommended. So that was our last question. How did you do? Let me know. I also created a Kahoot game for this lesson, so I will post the link to that in the comments as well. That way, if this maybe was hard for you to follow along with, or I was going too quickly, you can go in and play that Kahoot game. It could be a refresher or play the Kahoot game, and then obviously I'm explaining each question to you. That way you can kind of match things up, but check out our Kahoot and see what you think. All right, so things to think about. And again, if you want to write your comments and let me know your thoughts on these questions, that'll be super cool fun times. Which myths surprised you the most and why? Which facts surprised you the most and why? Which of these statements is something you've heard from a friend or family member? Which of these statements is something you've heard from TV, music, or other media? What is one new fact you want to share with a friend or family member? So if it's easier, you can pause after each of those questions. That way you can answer them if you would like to. All right, some of our last processing and follow-up questions. Why do you think myths exist? And where do you think they come from? How important is it to have factual information and why? And what are some reliable sources people can use to get factual, medically accurate information? So along those lines of factual, medically accurate information, obviously, you can come to myself or any of your top facilitators because this is what we're do. This is what we're trained in, so we can give you that factual, medically accurate information. If you're looking for things on the internet, you have to be careful because not everything on the internet is true. But if you go to sites like Planned Parenthood, the CDC, things that end in .org, those are usually going to be more reputable sources. If you come across a source and you want to know if it is like a good source of information, let me know. I can check it out for you or confirm whether or not it's something we use and something that we like that can give you that correct information. So, this is our lesson about sexual health, true and false. I know that, again, it's a little bit different doing it this way, but I don't want you to get out of the loop with the things that we talk about just because we are not in school. So I wanted to make sure we just had a little bit of fun, and a little bit of refresher and information about ourselves and our bodies and our sexual health, because I know there's a lot of people cooped up and isolated, and we got to make sure that we are staying safe in all aspects of our lives. So each week, just check out this page. I'll be posting top lessons like this. I'll post resources, things that you can do if you're feeling bored during this time. I will pretend like I know what I'm doing on TikTok and record some of those. So this is just a place that you can go and check out all of the things top related while we are not together face to face. So I hope you have a wonderful Wait Top Wednesday. Thank you for coming and hanging out with me for a little while, and I will see you soon. Bye.